Sam was a quiet, gentle 8-year-old boy who lived with his busy parents in a large house. His mother and father, both working professionals, loved him deeply but often struggled to spend much time with him. They believed that giving Sam a good education and hiring a reliable help would make up for their absence. So they employed a housemaid named Auntie Ruth who had been with them for a year. Ruth was a trusted member of the household, managing the home, cooking meals, and looking after Sam when his parents were at work. She had always seemed polite and caring, which made Sam's parents confident in their choice. However, Sam often felt lonely in their spacious house. Though Auntie Ruth was there, he yearned for his parents' attention, but each day seemed to follow a regular pattern. His parents would leave early in the morning and come home very late, too tired to do more than just to ask about the day. He would try to share more, they often nods absent mindedly, not fully absorbing his word. Though his parents were proud of their achievements and accomplishments, they sometimes missed subtle signs about Sam. He began retreating into himself, learning to play quietly or watch the telly until he fell asleep. The only person around him regularly was Auntie Ruth. Initially, he was happy to have someone around and he tried to be polite and friendly with her, but despite her frequent smiles, there was something unsettling about her that Sam couldn't quite place. He tried to push these feelings aside, thinking maybe he was imagining things. After all, everyone trusted her completely. Why shouldn't he? At first, Sam didn't notice anything unusual about his relationship with Auntie Ruth. She was kind to him, often bringing him snacks and calling him my dear in a soft voice when his parents weren't around. Ruth would sit with him while he did his homework and they would laugh at the silly cartoons he liked to watch. Sam found comfort in her company and she seemed to genuinely care for him. She would ask about his day and share stories about her own childhood, which Sam found fascinating. He felt like he had a friend, someone who understood him when his parents were busy. Ruth had a way of making Sam feel special. She would compliment his drawings, telling him he was a great artist and that he'd one day be a famous painter. Her words made Sam feel proud of himself. Sometimes she would even take him on a small outings to the nearby park or the store to buy his favorite treats. When Sam's parents were busy with their work, Ruth was the one who would tuck him into bed at night. She would sing lullabies to him, and Sam would fall asleep, feeling safe and loved. She had become a mother figure in his life, filling the gap that his parents' busy schedules left. But beneath Ruth's seemingly caring actions, Sam didn't know there was something darker lurking around. He was a young boy, innocent and trusting, and he didn't understand the complexities of adult behavior. Ruth's manipulative nature was hidden beneath her friendly smile, and Sam couldn't see the danger in her actions. To him, she was just the woman who cared for him when his parents weren't there. He didn't suspect that she had any bad intentions. Life at home seemed ordinary to him, filled with the comfort of routine and the occasional joy of small treats and outings with Ruth. One afternoon, when Sam was playing in his room, Ruth asked him to come into the kitchen to help her with something. She told him it would be fun, and Sam, eager to be helpful, followed her into the kitchen. What happened next left him confused and frightened. Ruth asked him to sit on a stool and then instructed him to hold onto a kitchen counter. She said she needed to show him something. Sam, still uncertain, complied. Ruth's actions were unusual. She told him to keep his eyes closed for a moment, which Sam thought was odd. But he obeyed, trusting her. Suddenly, he felt her hands on him in ways that made him uncomfortable. He tried to pull away, but Ruth held him in place, whispering that everything would be okay and that he shouldn't tell anyone. Sam felt a strange sensation of fear crawling up his spine, and his heart began to race. It was like a worrying bear inside his head had gone off, but he couldn't explain why. He wanted to scream or run, but his body felt frozen. After a few moments, Ruth stopped and reassured him that nothing was wrong, that it was a secret between them. She gave him a hug and said, "If you tell anyone, I will make sure something bad happens. You wouldn't want that, would you?" Sam nodded, not fully understand what she meant, but the fear in her voice made him believe her. She made it clear that if he ever told anyone, he would regret it. Sam began to feel trapped. He didn't want to disappoint his parents or upset Ruth, who was still the one who took care of him. But he also didn't know who to talk to. When the thought of telling his mom or his dad, he was paralyzed by the fear. What if they didn't believe him? What if they thought he was making it up? So he kept silent. Even though his stomach turned every time Ruth came close, he no longer felt comfortable around her. But he didn't know how to escape the situation. Ruth's words haunted him. The idea that something bad would happen if he told anyone kept him silent. As time went on, Ruth's behavior became more frequent and aggressive, but Sam couldn't find the courage to speak up. His fear of Ruth's threat grew stronger, and the weight of keeping the secret became unbearable. Sam began to withdraw from the world around him, no longer enjoying the things he once did. He tried to keep his distance from Ruth, but she was always there watching him, waiting for any sign of disobedience. The once warm and caring housemaid was now a looming figure in Sam's life, and every moment spent with her left him feeling more trapped. Sam's anxiety continued to grow. There were days when he felt like he couldn't breathe, like his chest was tight with fear. He longed to tell his parents, but every time he tried, something stopped him. His mother and father were always so busy. They had long hours at work and barely had time to talk to him. When Sam did manage to get their attention, they often dismissed his concerns, assuring him he was just being difficult or seeking attention. One evening, Sam tried to explain to his mother that something was wrong with Auntie Ruth, but his mother was distracted by a phone call. "Sam, I don't have time this night, right now. Can you just go to bed?" she said, waving him away. Sam's heart sank, but he didn't argue. He went to his room feeling more isolated than ever. He tried to speak up, but his parents were too wrapped up in their own lives to listen. It was as though his concerns didn't matter to them. The next day, Sam tried again. This time, he waited until his father came home from work. He felt nervous and shaky. How did he say something? He walked up to his father and said, "Daddy, I don't like the way Auntie Ruth touches me." His father, not understanding the seriousness of the situation, simply replied, "Sam, Auntie Ruth takes good care of you. She's a nice woman. You need to behave better, okay?" Sam's voice fluttered as he tried to explain more, but his father's response was the same. "Stop complaining, Sam. You are overreacting." Sam felt a wave of hopelessness wash over him. His attempt to seek help had been ignored, and he was left to deal with everything on his own. Ruth's grip on him tightened, and he knew there was no one to turn to. He didn't know how much longer he could keep the secret, but each day it became harder to bear. As days passed, Sam's sense of dread deepened. He couldn't sleep well anymore. Each night, He would toss and turn in his bed, his thoughts racing with fear. He would often wake up sweating, his heart pounding after having vivid nightmares about Ruth's threat. In these dreams, she would chase him, telling him that if he ever told anyone, she would hurt him or make him disappear. Sometimes he dreamed of his parents turning away from him, not believing him, and it terrified him. His dream felt so real that he would wake up in the middle of the night, unable to shake off the sense of danger. His poor sleep began to affect his mood and behavior. At school, Sam found it hard to concentrate. His teachers noticed that he seemed distracted, not the cheerful, energetic child he used to be. His grades, once good, started slipping. He became withdrawn, avoiding friends and other children. Sam just couldn't focus. He was tired all the time, and the weight of keeping the secret was beginning to crush him. Every day felt like a battle to get through, and he had no one to share his burden with. Sam's parents noticed his change in behavior, but they didn't understand the reason behind it. They assumed he was just going through a phase, something that would pass with time. His mother, while loving, was overwhelmed with work, and his father, though well meaning, was too busy to notice the signs of distress in his son. They would tell him to snap out of it or stop being so moody, but no one took the time to listen closely enough to understand why Sam was struggling. Sam felt completely alone. He didn't want to seem weak, but every night was becoming unbearable. Sleep was no longer a comfort, but a reminder of everything he couldn't escape. The fear he felt every day drained him of the strength he needed to face the world. The once happy, energetic child was now a shadow of himself, and the sadness in his eyes did not go unnoticed by the few who truly saw him. One day, while sitting in class, Sam's teacher, Mrs. Olumide, noticed that he seemed especially out of it. His head was on his desk, and he hadn't participated in the lesson at all. It wasn't like him to be so disengaged. So Mrs. Olumide decided to have a quiet word with him after class. Sam, are you okay? She asked gently, trying to get him to open up. Sam didn't respond at first. He just stared at his desk, his finger nervously fading with the edge of his notebook. Mrs. Olumide's kind, soft voice encouraged him, but he still couldn't bring himself to speak. How could he? The fear of Ruth's threat weighed him heavily in his mind, making it impossible to even consider sharing his pain. But there was something in Mrs. Olumide's eyes that made Sam feel safe. She wasn't like his parents. She had no reason to judge him. Sam, something is wrong. You can tell me, she said, her tone warm but serious voice. You don't have to keep it to yourself, Sam. Sam felt a rise in his throat. He wanted to speak desperately to confide in her, but the fear held him back. Ruth's warning echoed in his mind. If he had told anyone, would something bad happen to him? Would they believe him? He shook his head and forced a smile, saying, Nothing, Mrs. Olumide. Mrs. Olumide gave him a concerned look but didn't push. She knew something was wrong, but she didn't want to pressure him. She decided to keep an eye on him, hoping that in time he would trust her enough to speak out. Though Sam appreciated her concern, he couldn't bring himself to tell her what was happening. Ruth's influence over him was still too strong, and he couldn't risk her finding out that he had shared anything with someone else. So he remained silent, and the heavy burden continued to grow. As the weeks went by, Ruth became more assertive and possessive. She had already established her control over Sam, but now she was beginning to isolate him from others, making it clear that he belongs to her alone. She made him promise again and again that he would never speak to anyone about what was happening between them. Each time, She gave him a hug or took him aside for a private moment. She reminded him of the dire consequences of breaking the secret. If you tell anyone, you will ruin everything. Do you want your parents to hate you? Ruth would ask, her voice a mixture of concern and menace. Do you want them to think you are a liar? Sam's fear of disappointing his parents were stronger than ever. He could never imagine his mother or father turning away from him. They were the only people he had left. Ruth knew exactly how to manipulate him, using his love and loyalty to his parents against him. She made it seem as if though the secret was necessary for the well-being of everyone in the house, including Sam. She also began to tell him that he was special, that only he could understand her, and the things she had done for him. Your parents won't understand, Sam, she would say. They will think you are just a child, that you are smart. You can keep this between us, right? Sam felt trapped. Each day, Ruth's influence on him deepened. She seemed to be everywhere, controlling every aspect of his life. The little joy Sam had left slowly drained away, replaced by a deepening sense of anxiety. He tried to push her away, but each time he did, she found a way to reel him back in, making him feel like he owed her his silence. It was as if Ruth had become the only authority in his life, and Sam began to feel as though he had no one else to trust. Every moment with her was a reminder that she had power over him. He was powerless to escape. Sam's mind was constantly racing, and the burden of keeping the secret was eating away at him. One night, after a particularly long day, he decided to write down everything that had happened. Maybe if he couldn't speak, he could at least write. He grabbed a pen and some paper and began to scribble out his feelings, hoping it would provide some relief from the weight on his chest. He wrote about Ruth's traits, the things she had done to him, and how trapped he felt. At the end of the note, he wrote, "Please help me." When he finished, Sam felt a small sense of relief. At least the words were out of his head. He thought about showing a note to his parents. But the fear of what would happen stopped him. What if they didn't believe him? What if Ruth convinced them that he was lying? In the end, Sam decided to hide the note under his mattress, hoping someone might find it someday. However, when his parents came into his room the next morning to tidy it up, they didn't notice the note. They were too preoccupied with their own lives. The note sat forgotten, and Sam's hope began to fade. He had tried to speak out in his own way, but once again it had gone unnoticed. This failure only reinforced his belief that no one could help him. Sam's sense of isolation deepened, and the heavy weight of keeping the secret was now all consuming. The days blurred together as he continued to live in fear, unable to find a way out. If this is your first time of coming across this video, kindly like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so that you get notified whenever I upload a video. Thank you. She reminded him of the dire consequences of breaking the secret. If you tell anyone, you will ruin everything. Do you want your parents to hate you? Ruth would ask, her voice a mixture of concern and menace. Do you want them to think you are a liar? Sam's fear of disappointing his parents were stronger than ever. He could never imagine his mother or father turning away from him. They were the only people he had left. Ruth knew exactly how to manipulate him, using his love and loyalty to his parents against him. If you are coming across this channel for the first time, kindly like, comment, and subscribe. Then turn on the notification bell so you get notified whenever I drop a video. Thank you. Sam was a quiet, gentle 8-year-old boy who lived with his busy parents in a large house. His mother and father, both working professionals, loved him deeply but often struggled to spend much time with him. They believed that giving Sam a good education and hiring a reliable help would make up for their absence. So they employed a housemaid named Auntie Ruth who had been with them for a year. Ruth was a trusted member of the household, managing the home, cooking meals, and looking after Sam when his parents were at work. She had always seemed polite and caring, which made Sam's parents confident in their choice. However, Sam often felt lonely in their spacious house. Though Auntie Ruth was there, he yearned for his parents' attention, but each day seemed to follow a regular pattern. His parents would leave early in the morning and come home very late, too tired to do more than just to ask about the day. He would try to share more, they often non absent mindedly, not fully absorbing his word. Though his parents were proud of their achievements and accomplishments, They sometimes miss subtle signs about Sam. He began retreating into himself, learning to play quietly or watch telly until he fell asleep. The only person around him regularly was Auntie Ruth. Initially, he was happy to have someone around and he tried to be polite and friendly with her, but despite her frequent smiles, there was something unsettling about her that Sam couldn't quite place. He tried to push these feelings aside, thinking maybe he was imagining things. After all, everyone trusted her completely. Why shouldn't he? At first, Sam didn't notice anything unusual about his relationship with Auntie Ruth. She was kind to him, often bringing him snacks and calling him my dear in a soft voice when his parents weren't around. Ruth would sit with him while he did his homework and they would laugh at the silly cartoons he liked to watch. Sam found comfort in her company and she seemed to genuinely care for him. She would ask about his day and share stories about her own childhood, which Sam found fascinating. He felt like he had a friend, someone who understood him when his parents were busy. Ruth had a way of making Sam feel special. She would compliment his drawings, telling him he was a great artist.